Hello guys, it's your friend Naruto Fanfics, back again with another awesome fanfic. Which is what if banished Naruto became the Emperor of the West? Naruto x Hinata, Kyuubi Female Twist Part 3. If you enjoy it, please show your support by hitting the like button and subscribing for more fanfics like this. And now let's get started. Ruins of Odogakure, Sound Country 72 hours after the battle. Not even the Suna Akatsuki War had matched what would later become the Odo-Iwa-Kumo conflict in brutality and intensity. The war had engulfed all of the land of sound and parts of lightning and earth, threatening to even pour out into neighboring countries. The three shinobi villages of Kumo, Iwa and Odo were all poised to destroy Konoha. But then, for all accounts and purposes, the Triple Alliance, self-destructed. Kumo and Iwa had both lost a sizable amount of ninja, and blamed the other in Odo. Naturally, Orochimaru had denied the claim, but neither side was listening. Then all hell had broken loose. Orochimaru had found himself in the middle of a two-front war, a nightmare for any ninja, with Iwa in the west and Kumo in the east. The Snake Sage had came to a horrifying realization: there was no way out for him. He was severely outmanned, and not even his test subjects with the Cursed Seal or the revived Sound Four could stave off stone and lightning. Even Manda, his personal snake summon, would fall in the ensuing battle, having been brought down by Kumo and Iwa's own animal summons. As for the Snake Sage himself, he would be severely weakened. Not by the loss of his sound ninja force, but due to the fact that his current body was nearly burned out, and that even if he could transfer to another body, it would do no good. 3 days after the battle had begun, a cessation of hostilities was declared by the new Tsuchikage, Kuretsuchi, the granddaughter of the late Onoki and an interim Raikage. Both sides had endured massive losses and both sides had came to the conclusion that it was all Orochimaru's fault. A shaky peace treaty was signed and Kumo and Iwa left the field of battle, leaving Odo and the land of sound a virtual wasteland. It was then, that once Kumo and Iwa were back within their borders, the true mastermind of the Odo-Iwa-Kumo conflict had revealed itself. In the ruins of Odogakure no Sato, Orochimaru knew that he was dying. But the last thing he expected was the Kyuubi brat making the save for Konoha. Too bad he forgot that said Kyuubi brat had a bone to pick with him regarding the murder of Hiruzen Sarutobi. Orochimaru had attacked Naruto, who disarmed him and used both his own katana and Orochimaru's signature weapon, Kusanagi, to lop off both of Orochimaru's arms before crisscrossing the blades in a scissor pattern on Orochimaru's neck. Flashback. Ruins of Odogakure 30 minutes earlier. A weakened Orochimaru was on his knees, glaring at the son of Minato Namikaze, who held both Kusanagi and his own sword at his neck. The Snake Sage knew that he would never get the chance to burn down Konoha. He would never see the Hokage monument crumble and fall. He was finished. Why? Orochimaru demanded, defiant in his final moments. Why defend a place which has shunned you? Forsaken you? Naruto smiled evilly. Oh, don't worry, you old snake. I'm not doing this for Konoha. But I can't let you burn the place down. The honor of destroying Konoha is mine and mine alone. Then why kill me? We can destroy Konoha together. Spare my life, and I will be in your service. Naruto shook his head. So you can try and take my body like you tried to do with the Uchiha. No thanks. I can do without backstabbers. I dealt with plenty of those during the Unification Wars. No. You are too much of a threat, Orochimaru. Besides, you have to answer for your own slights against me. You murdered the closest thing I had for a father figure in the Suna-Odo invasion. Your former sensei, the Sandaime Hokage, Hiruzen Sarutobi. Time to answer for your crimes. You'd kill me over that old fool. You should be thanking me. If it wasn't for my interest in Sasuke, you would still be stuck in that damned village. You would not have been forced to leave in order to become stronger. You are what you are now because of me. I made you. Spare me your explanations. Your time is up, Orochimaru, Naruto replied as his grip tightened on the swords. You can go to hell, Namikaze. After you. With a move of his arms, Naruto Namikaze decapitated Orochimaru, and thus, avenged the death of his mentor. End flashback. Naruto Namikaze watched as the massive form of Katami's Nine Tails unleashed her foxfire stream upon the destroyed village, burning it to ashes. Gaara's Suna ninja would conduct the mop-up operations, using the information Naruto had received from Kabuto in regards to Orochimaru's hidden labs, right before ending his life as well. His katana was sheathed, while he held Kusanagi in his other hand, a specialized seal was on the handle, suppressing its power. Naruto will take Orochimaru's sword home as a trophy of war. As Odogakure no Sato was engulfed in a sea of flames, Katami reappeared, having reverted back to her human form. It's done, Kit, she said. Odogakure is no more. Naruto nodded. Konoha was safe, for the time being. Now, it was up to Tsunade and the Fire Lord. He had 5 ships on standby in water country, ready to move the clan heads and their families to the west. Now, it was time to return home. Konohagakure no Sato, 1 week after Otogakure's destruction. Konoha was breathing a sigh of relief. Orochimaru was dead, his sound ninja decimated, and the land of sound was destroyed. The civilians, full of themselves as always, claimed victory, saying that it was the will of fire which drove Orochimaru's alliance to self-destruct, and that they didn't need the Demon Emperor and his whore to save their skins. Oh, the lies we tell to make ourselves feel better. It was after the celebrations had concluded that Tsunade had summoned the council and dropped the bomb. She was resigning her position as Hokage. In these past several weeks, I have come to the realization that this village, once founded by my grandfather, has lost the will of fire. We have become complacent and arrogant in our abilities and in our dealing with people. It is because of this. I am stepping down as Godime Hokage. I will remain in Konoha until the end of the month. Then I will travel west to offer penance to the son of the Yellow Flash, and hope that he forgives this foolish old woman. In the days following Tsunade's resignation, things got even more hectic. Mostly regarding the Emperor of the West and his wife. The main branch of the Hyuga clan had voted unanimously to declare Hinata's marriage to Naruto invalid and issued an order for her to return to Konoha immediately, lest she would end up suffering the wrath of the Hyuga clan. The order was ignored. For Naruto, the civilian clan found out that Naruto had bank accounts in both Tea and Spring countries. They had sent envoys there, with orders to the banks demanding that they hand over the Namikaze family's wealth so it can liquidate it and used to further Konoha's selfish desires. Both were sent back empty-handed. 5 days after Tsunade had resigned her post from Konoha, she had received word from a smaller slug summon that the Fire Lord was less than a mile off from Konoha with his guardian ninja and a battalion of his private army. Perfect timing, Tsunade thought as the small slug disappeared, just as a squad of Konoha Root Anbu led by Sai approached her while she was inside the ninja-only bar and grill, enjoying a drink. Lady Tsunade, your presence is requested inside the council chambers by the Rokudime-elect, Sai said. Can't this wait until after I'm finished? The former Hokage asked, doing a good job of acting annoyed. I'm sorry, Lady Tsunade, but the Rokudime-elect has ordered a mandatory meeting of all clan heads, their successors, and special Junin, the ink user replied. Please come with us. Sighing, Tsunade downed the last of her sake and headed for the Hokage Tower with her escort. Konoha Council Chambers, minutes later. Sure enough, the Konoha Council Chamber was packed with nothing but shinobi, from the clan heads to the special Junin when Tsunade entered the room. Tsunade took notice of the Root Anbu and the Hyuga main branch ninja that stood guard inside the room. Seated in the Hokage's chair, in the robes of state and the Hokage's hat, was Danzo Shimura. The 2 council elders were seated on either side of the Warhawk turned Rokudime. Only this time, Hiyashi Hyuga sat next to Kaharu while Asuna Haruno sat next to Hanmura. Tsunade also took notice of Sakura Haruno standing among the Anbu and Hyuga ninja. Ah, Lady Tsunade, Danzo greeted smoothly. So nice of you to join us. All right, I'm here. What do you want, Lord Hokage? Tsunade demanded, showing Danzo the same disrespect he had shown her during her tenure as the Godime. You could at least congratulate me on my ascension to the seat of Hokage, Danzo replied. Aside from taking oaths of loyalty, which the clans have not taken yet, I am here to inform you, Tsunade Senju, that your right of free passage is hereby revoked. Tsunade cocked an eyebrow. Excuse me, last time I checked, Shimura, my right of free passage was given to me in Jiraiya once we became sages. True, Danzo said, but you're needed here in Konoha. As for Jiraiya, I have tracked him down to Spring Country. If he knows what is good for him, then he will not refuse my summons to return. The Spring Daimyo will not interfere with Konoha business, even thought she did grant him asylum. Tsunade snorted. Needed, you mean you want me here to keep an eye on me? Danzo shrugged his shoulders. Call it what you like. You may be a sage, but you are still a shinobi of the leaf. I cannot. No, I will not let you go west to that brat and his whore of a wife. Tsunade smirked, still sore over the fact that same brat mopped the floor with you and your precious Root Anbu. Danzo ignored the insult. Furthermore, I am reversing your judgment in regards to Sakura Haruno. I felt that it was unjust. Effective immediately, she is reinstated as a shinobi in the Konohagakure shinobi force with the rank of Junin. Furthermore, as your Rokudime, you are hereby ordered to take Haruno back as your apprentice and to terminate your apprenticeship to Ino Yamanaka. As Inochi and Ino raised their voices in protest, Tsunade looked at the smirking Sakura and the regal Asuna. And how much did Asuna bribe you to make this decision? Tsunade asked. That is none of your concern, Asuna replied. You will do as the Rokudime commands and take back my daughter as your apprentice. Fuck no, was Tsunade's reply. Before Danzo could reply to Tsunade's remark, the doors to the council chambers opened and 5 more root Anbu marched in with a bound Meiki Asahina. Deciding to place Tsunade on hold, Danzo turned to the Imperial Ninja Pakera merchant. Captain Asahina, do you know why you are here? Despite being bound, Meiki showed no fear. Enlighten me, you old crow. Meiki Asahina, you have been brought before the Konoha Council to answer for the crimes of murdering 3 Hyuga main branch ninja, Hiyashi replied. My ninja. Second, the Pakera merchant house will be ordered to pay reparations to the Hyuga clan and the Konoha Mercantile Guild. Your ninja attacked me, Meiki replied. It was self-defense. The Godime ruled it as such. And to quote your former Hokage, fuck no. And that is another thing that I am overturning, Danzo replied. You have killed Konoha ninja from a respected and honorable clan, which carries an automatic death sentence. Do you have anything to say before your sentence is carried out? Meiki didn't say anything. Instead, she reacted. While they were talking, Meiki had freed her bonds. She elbowed the root to her left in the face, driving the cartilage into her brain, killing her instantly. The second root Anbu to her left drew her katana, but Meiki quickly disarmed her, and was armed with her own katana, the second root Anbu lying on the floor in a pool of her own blood, her throat slashed. In an instant, 5 Hyuga main branch ninja and 5 root Anbu surrounded the young kunoichi. The other root in the room had their weapons drawn, keeping the other shinobi at bay. You have no idea who you are fucking with, Meiki replied. I can just as easily carve through the 10 of you without blinking an eye. Enough of this, kill her, Hiyashi shouted. 50 seconds later, the 5 Hyuga ninja and the 5 root Anbu were all slain. Meiki was covered in blood spatter, but was still alive. Her flak vest had taken some damage, but other than that, she was unharmed. Suffice to say, the shinobi clan heads and their children were impressed with her skill. You have sealed your fate, Hiyashi shouted. You will not leave this room alive. Looks like self-defense to me, the Fire Lord said from the doorway. Just in time, Tsunade thought as the Fire Lord entered the room, followed by his guardian ninja and a squad of heavily armed ninja from his personal military force. Lord Daimyo, this woman has killed members of my clan. I demand justice, Hiyashi demanded as several root Anbu cleaned up the bodies of the fallen ninja. The Fire Lord turned to Meiki. You are free to go, Captain Asahina, he said. Your actions were deemed justifiable in my eyes. Meiki bowed and departed from the room, while Hiyashi sputtered out curses to the smirking Asahina. Once she was gone, the Fire Lord turned to Danzo. Why is it every time you idiots make me so angry with your rampant stupidity I have to personally intervene? Did you forget that the Toad Sage answers directly to me, and not to the Hokage? Or did you forget that I personally signed the decision in regards to the Haruno girl? Or that this village is still a shinobi village because of my grace? He turned to Tsunade. Tsunade Senju, I am hereby restoring your right of free passage, as well as relieving you of your responsibilities as a shinobi of Konohagakure no Sato. He then turned to the shinobi present. As a matter of fact, I am extending this to all of you. For the next 14 days, any shinobi from the lowest of genin to the elite junin is free to leave Konohagakure no Sato. You will not be labeled as missing ninja nor placed inside the bingo book. Any attempts to restrain any ninja wanting to leave by genjutsu, force, blackmail, bribery or seals, he threatened, directing the last shot at Hiyashi, will result in an automatic death sentence to the offending party, regardless of their status in this village. In an instant, Asuna was on her feet. You can't do that, she objected. I just did, the Fire Lord replied. And to make sure that my orders are carried out, I am leaving a battalion of my most loyal soldiers here to make sure that no one interferes for the next 2 weeks. Cross me, Shimura, and you will have the honor of being the Hokage with the shortest term in the history of the village. That said, the Fire Lord stalked out of the room, his guardian ninja following close behind. As soon as they were gone, Tsunade turned to the gathered ninja. In 6 days, I will be leaving Konoha for good. If you wish to come with me, then you are free to do so. With that said, the slug sage departed from the room. Meanwhile, the gathered shinobi were talking amongst themselves. They were seriously giving the idea consideration. Hiyashi saw that his fellow clan heads were clearly considering the Fire Lord's decree, and tried to make the ninja see reason. You can't leave. We are Konoha shinobi. We must stick together and show a unified front. Your ancestors were part of this village ever since it was founded. The Leaf has put a major investment in your training and that of your children. Maybe instead of worrying about that drunk of a sage, you should start worrying about your future and that of your own children. Shuza, Inochi, Shikaku, Tsume, Shibi, Asuma and Kakashi all exchanged glances. Then Inochi rose from his seat and stepped towards Danzo and the others. For a moment, Hiyashi thought that his words had gotten through to them and Inochi would be the first to swear loyalty to the Rokudime. Until Inochi unfastened his Hitai-8 and dropped it to the floor, where it made a sharp clink as the metal struck the floor. I am thinking for my future, and that of my family. And it's not in this village, Inochi replied before walking out of the room. Soon, Ino did the same thing, unfastening her Hitai-8 and dropping it to the floor alongside her father's. Then Shuza, and Choji, and Shikaku, and Shikamaru, and Shibi, and Shino. Wait a second, you can't do this. Asuna objected as the procession passed the Hokage and his advisors, the sharp sound of Hitai Atesh landing on one another making the Rokudaime even more angrier by the second. Clink. Sume has dropped her Hitai-8 into the growing pile. You are all Konoha shinobi. Your loyalty is to the Hokage. Sakura shouted. Clink. Hiba tossed his to the ground. Clink. Asuma and Kurenai's Hitai Atesh landed on the pile at the same time. Clink. Enko flipped off the Hokage and his advisors before walking out, having discarded her Hitai-8. You are jeopardizing your future as ninja. Kaharu shouted. Clink. Maeda Gai's Hitai-8 joined the pile. Clink. Tenten and Rock Lee's Hitai Atesh followed suit. Sasuke. Sakura shouted. Clink. Sasuke dropped his Hitai-8 at Sakura's feet. I'm done with this town, he replied as Kakashi dropped his own Hitai-8 and followed his rival's team. With this act of defiance, unknown to Konoha, it was the beginning of the end for the Leaf. With the exception of the Hyuga main branch clan, the Hyuga cadet branch clan, led by Neji Hyuga, the main clans of Konoha, the Aburame, Yamanaka, Akamaiki, Nara, Inazuka and Sarutobi, as well as a sizable number of Junin and Shunin had decided that it was best to leave Konoha rather than serve under a power-mad and corrupt government. Since Tsunade was heading for the Western Empire, those that were leaving had decided to throw in their lot with the former Hokage and head west. Neji, however, had an ulterior motive in leaving Konoha. The reason being was that he was romantically involved with Tenten. And since he was part of the cadet branch, any child born from their union would be subjected to the caged bird seal, something that Hanabi had reminded him plenty of times. Deciding that a new life out west was more better than a lifetime of servitude and humiliation, the entire cadet branch had turned in their Hitai Atesh as well, crippling the power of the main branch. The clan heads prepared for the move. Among them, Shikaku and Shikamaru had slaughtered their deer and preserved its meat for the travel to the west, Shuza and Choji helping. Ino and her parents had sold the Yamanaka flower shop to one of the civilians who was a loyal customer, but decided to stay behind in Konoha. When the Konoha Mercantile Guild refused to sell them supplies, it was the Pakera merchant house that made the save by offering supplies at half the normal cost. Even Ibiki Morino, Konoha's resident torture expert and his younger brother, had decided to put in their lot with Tsunade. Since Konoha's numbers were still small and that there were no genin at the academy this year, having about half of Konoha's experienced ninja leaving the village was a serious blow. Before she resigned, Tsunade had pilfered the files of all of the clans and high-ranking Shunin and Junin, as well as raiding the village's treasury, removing the Senju family fortunes, as well as those of the Uchiha. The clan heads had already taken their cash out of the city's banks and were using their combined resources for supplies for the upcoming trip. Tsunade even went as far as to retrieve the ashes of the first four Hokages, Hashirama and Tobarama Senju, Hiruzen Sarutobi and Minato Namikaze, as well as the ashes of Dan, Nawaki Senju and Kushina Namikaze from the Konoha graveyard and sealed them in several scrolls. The daimyo's decree was enforced with vigor. When a Hyuga main branch ninja tried to stop Neji from resigning, he was immediately killed on the spot. All in all, 50 ninja and villagers were executed for violating the daimyo's law, and over 200 Konoha ninja and their families had decided to leave. Konoha. Day of the Exodus. Morning came over Konohagakure. Tsunade looked at the gathered crowd before her. With the exception of the Hyuga main branch clan, the Hyuga cadet branch were present, as were all of the other clans and over 200 Shunin and Junin. Watching nearby, were Asuna and Sakura Haruno, the two elder council members Kaharu Utane and Hanmura Mitokado, Hiyashi Hyuga and his daughter, Danzo Shimura and a sizable amount of Root Anbu and Hyuga main branch ninja. The Rokudaime and his entourage did not look very happy, as the ninja leaving were the most experienced and the most promising in the shinobi world. Shizune stood at her mentor's side, taunton in her arms. Everyone's ready, Tsunade, she said. Tsunade nodded. So many, there are so many of them. No argument there, said a voice she hasn't heard in over 8 years. Shizune and Tsunade turned to the source of the voice. Jiraiya stood by the slug sage, having appeared in a poof of smoke. Despite everything that has happened, she was happy to see the old perv. If the situation wasn't as serious, this could be a great scene for my latest novel, the old man said. He then took a serious expression. I know everything, Tsunade. I went to the west to try and convince the kid to defend Konoha, but after what I learned convinced me otherwise. He looked at the Rokudaime and his lackeys. This village was our home. But after Minato had died, it had lost the will of fire. So true, Tsunade replied. Grandpa and Uncle Tobirama would be rolling over in their graves if they could see how this village has ended up. Konoha is finished. So what's the plan? We head south, towards Wave. Naruto has several ships standing by to take us to the west. Jiraiya looked at the gathered ninja that were leaving alongside the slug sage. Are all the people here ninja? Tsunade nodded. And their families. A small number of civilians had left for the fire capital and the surrounding towns. We got all the clans, save for the Hyuga main branch, and about 200 Shunin and Junin. Even Anko and Ibiki wanted out. Jiraiya also took notice of Sasuke Uchiha, standing with Shikamaru and Choji, chatting. I'm surprised to see that the Uchiha is coming. Me too, but I can't complain. But enough talking. Let's get this show on the road. With that, what was soon to be known as the Konoha Exodus has begun. Imperial Complex, House of Sovereigns, 3 days later. A meeting of the Imperial Council. Operation Susanoo's Wrath is a success, Naruto reported. Oto has been destroyed, and Orochimaru has been slain. And the refugees from Konoha? Kokura Yamada asked. I have received word that they are on their way to the coast, Naruto replied. They are being led by Jiraiya and Tsunade Senju. Senju? Now that's a name I haven't heard in a long time, Kokura said. A very long time. You know about the Senju clan? Hinata asked. In a way, the older woman replied. On my father's side, I am a direct descendant of the Senju. Care to explain? Naruto asked. My clan ancestor and co-founder was Toka Senju, a master genjutsu specialist who was a close associate of one of the co-founders of Konoha, Hashirama Senju, Kokura explained. When Konoha was founded by Harashima and Madara Uchiha, Toka had met and fallen in love with a ninja from the west. His name was Hiro Yamada, the founder of my clan. Back then, the west was relatively peaceful, and not locked in the years of civil war. So Hiro's specialty was that he was an expert healer, right? Hinata asked. Correct, Lady Hinata, the Yamada clan head replied, pride in her voice. You can say that he was the forerunner of the medic ninja. In fact, he was the creator of several medical ninjutsu, including the mystic palm jutsu. However, Hiro was called back to the west when the wars had intensified. Hashirama allowed Toka to leave with him. By the time Tobirama Senju ascended the position of Hokage, all contact was lost. To tell you the truth, Chief, I am very surprised to hear that a Senju from the east is still alive. Since you claim ancestry from the Senju, then you would have no problem in backing that claim up, Naruto said, interested that he had a distant relative sitting on the council. Kokura nodded. I can send you copies of my family tree, if you are interested. Since Naruto had also claimed ancestry from the Senju clan through his grandmother, Haruka connected the dots. Chief, you do realize that Yamada is a distant relative? Naruto nodded. Yeah, ironic that I have family in the west. But we can settle that later. Right now, we have to prepare for 300 new arrivals. North Kimin will be a good place for the arrivals. Located within the imperial capital, North Kimin was a wooded district that used to belong to the most powerful clans supporting Rokenbongi Oda. When Oda was killed, those supporting the fallen warlord had fled with nothing but the clothes on their backs. Naruto had then seized control of their assets, had them liquidated and used them to finance his war. When they returned with their own personal army to take back Kimin City a year later, Naruto had a surprise for them. He had just learned the Hiroshin. Combined with 2 shadow clones, the clans and their armies were wiped off the map. Now, North Kimin was empty. There was plenty of room in Kimin City, but Naruto chose North Kimin because it was the one place where he can keep an eye on the Konoha refugees. The clans got their own compounds, while the Junin and Shunin, he would have set up in 3 dorm-like buildings. When will the Konoha refugees arrive? Ryuji Shinzen asked. In 4 days, Naruto replied. Granny Tsunade has their dossiers with her, so Hinata and I will be busy with assigning them with duties similar to that of what they used to do in Konoha. And what about Konoha? Sanshi asked. If they do take up arms against you, then what? Easy. We'll let Iwa and Kumo know that it was Konoha's very own Root Anbu that conducted Susanoo's wrath, Naruto replied, grinning. We'll frame Konoha and their Rokudaime for the attack and let Danzo deal with the headache. En route to the unified west, the exodus had taken 2 days' march from Konoha to the coast of Fire Country. It was made possible for the fact that the ninja had carried their loved ones as they hopped through the trees. Once they reached the coast, they were greeted with the sight of 5 supply ships, ready to carry them to a new world. Tsunade had assigned the clans each to 1 ship, along with a sizable number of Shunin and Junin under their watch. Both generations of the Yamanaka, Akamiki and Nara had been assigned to the first boat. Asuma and Kurenai were on the second boat. The Hyuga Cadet Branch clan, led by Neji Hyuga, the Inuzuka, Tenten, Rock Lee, Kakashi Hatake and Maeda Guy boarded the third. The Aburame clan, along with Sasuke Uchiha, got on board the fourth. And Tsunade, Jiraiya, and Shizune took the last boat out. With Konoha behind them, the clan heads decided to come clean about the circumstances behind Naruto's banishment. Shikamaru had told Ino and Choji, who in turn confronted their parents about it. In the hold below deck, the three clan heads confirmed Shikamaru's claims, while the Junin and Chunin listened on in shock. Inochi slowly nodded, as Shusa's expression was grim. Yes, Ino, much to our shame, we agreed to the banishment in exchange for your lives. We had originally planned on banishing the Uchiha, Shikaku seconded, but Danzo approached all of us and issued the ultimatum. In exchange for your safety, we banished an innocent ninja for doing his duty. But is what Shikamaru said true? About Naruto being the son of Minato Namikaze? Choji asked. It is, son, Shusa replied. Shikaku, Inochi and myself, we were all friends with Minato. We came up together in the Shinobi Academy. When he married Kushina, we were all there. And when Naruto was born, oh, Minato was so overjoyed. But that was short-lived when Madara used the Nine Tails to attack Konoha. So Uzumaki is not the Nine Tails reborn? A Chunin asked. No, Shikaku replied. He is the son of the Yondaime Hokage, and the former container of the Nine Tails. The tailed beasts are not demons as the civilians called them, but rather beasts that are more attuned to nature and the elements. And how do you know this? Yoshino demanded. I read when I'm not hurting deer, her husband replied. The Konoha library had plenty of books detailing the Six Paths Sage and the Jinchuriki. On the ship with the Hyuga and the Inuzuka, Team Guy, along with Kakashi, has just finished listening to Tsune's confession in regards to Naruto's banishment. They were not very happy. Especially Kiba and Hana. Not only were your lives threatened, Tsune continued, but those from other genin teams that showed potential. Guy's team, Neji Hyuga. Hana looked sick. Her three dogs were also upset. We screwed Naruto over big time, she lamented. You wasn't the one who threatened to kill him the next time he appeared, Kiba said. He was justified in beating us down the way he did. Just think, the dead last the Emperor of the West, and his wife who was written off as worthless by her own family the Empress Consort, Tenten said. The same guy that unified the West and rallied the remaining Jinchuriki under his banner, not to mention both he and Hinata had fought and destroyed the Akatsuki. Naruto could have just as easily turned his armies upon Konoha once he became the Emperor, Neji said, lost in his thoughts. But instead, he freed himself of his past. Hinata could have killed me, Hanabi or Hiashi, and would have been justified in her actions. His fingers gently rubbed over the caged bird seal. There is no such thing as fate. There is only choice. He told me that in T-Country. He was right. Kakashi just simply listened on in silence as he tied a headband over his Sharingan, silently vowing that he would make it up to Naruto, no matter what it takes. On the ship with the Aburame and the Uchiha, Sasuke Uchiha was currently blowing chunks overboard. Shibi had just told the others about the true reasons behind Naruto's banishment. Almost immediately, the last Uchiha felt sick to his stomach, which is why he was currently vomiting over the ship, while the ship's crew looked on in amusement. Almost immediately, Shibi emerged above deck, and saw the queasy Uchiha. On the ship containing the Yamanaka, Inochi Yamanaka, as well as Shusa Akamaiki, had witnessed Sasuke losing his lunch. A silent exchange between the two clan heads ensued, followed by a simple nod of the head from the master bug user. Inochi's body went limp as he performed the mind transfer technique, Shusa catching Inochi and setting him down gently on the deck. Seconds later, the Yamanaka clan head had possessed his Aburame counterpart. I take it you heard, Inochi, Shibi said as Sasuke wiped his mouth. I don't feel so hot, Sasuke moaned. Is it because of your actions which led to the banishment of Uzumaki? Or the fact that the clan heads were forced to choose a hero over you in exchange for the safety of their children? Or the fact that your former teammate is the son of the Yellow Flash? With the exception of the last one, since I was present in the chambers that day, the last Uchiha replied. But, why? You could have rose up against Danzo and the others. That would have ended in a civil war. And with the Hyuga clan backing them up, Konoha would have been destroyed, its shinobi forces depleted, and our children kidnapped and taken into root. At least now I can understand why the other clan heads hate me, Sasuke admitted. But I am curious, why did you decide to leave Konoha, and come with us? Shibi Inochi asked. Redemption, mostly. That and I would rather fight Gaara and Orochimaru at the same time before I marry Sakura, Sasuke admitted. That woman is batshit insane. Her mom, too. I always thought that Hiashi would be jumping with joy when he found out that Hinata was the Empress of the West. Kinda hard when the one person you thought was weak effectively ends your shinobi career, Shibi Inochi said. Do you really believe that redemption can be earned instead or bought? I destroyed a friendship because of my vengeance and caused a loyal ninja to be banished. Naruto will never forgive me for this betrayal. You admitting that you screwed up. That's taking the first step, Shibi Inochi admitted. But, Naruto was never known to hold grudges. People change, Yamanaka, especially when you don't see them for 8 years, the Uchiha replied before heading back down deck. So true, Shibi Inochi said as Yamanaka broke the mind transfer, giving Shibi control back of his body. The scene played out as well on the remaining 2 boats, Asuma and Kurenai telling the assembled Junin and Chunin about what they had learned from Tsunade while they were making the trek to the coast, while Tsunade and Jiraiya did the same on their boat. Reactions were varied, but everyone thought the same thing. Leaving Konoha was the best decision they had ever made, lest they would found themselves in a virtual police state under Danzo. But given the fact that they were heading for the Western Empire which was ruled by a banished ninja, it was a risk that they had to take. Back in Konoha, a war council was meeting inside the half-deserted Hyuga compound. The 2 weeks had passed without any further incident. Following the passing of that deadline, Danzo had Konoha placed under martial law. Root Anbu and Hyuga ninja patrolled the streets in a show of strength. It was a new era for Konoha, as Danzo had envisioned. Once Konoha had regained its strength, all it had to do was wait until the fire daimyo had passed on. Then he could declare war on the unified West. Hiashi was going through the final numbers of the ninja that had left Konoha. All of the clans, as well as the traders in my clan, and approximately 175 Junin and 160 Chunin had defected from Konoha. On top of that, that damned drunk cleaned out the treasury and the library of all jutsu and techniques. Over 300 of our most experienced ninja, gone. Asuna Haruno shouted, and we just let them walk out of the village. Furthermore, we lost Sasuke Uchiha. Despite the promise of power and wealth, he left along with that drunk of a sage and that perverted hermit. Hiashi looked grim. Even more so, that damned emperor can remove the caged bird seal from Neji and the other branch members. He did it for Hinata, and he can just as easily remove it for the cadet branch in order to cement their loyalty. That damned brat is a threat. He must be dealt with, no matter what the cost. Hiashi, calm, Danzo replied. I have already taken steps in dealing with the situation. We will simply bring in some fresh blood, clans who are loyal to the leaf. The wise will cultivate our favor, and those who challenge our power will not be around to argue. Second, we will open dialogue with Iwa. I think they will be very interested in discovering that the emperor is the son of Minato Namikaze. About 5 miles out of Konoha, a squad of the Imperial Defense Forces Demolition and Explosives Division has just returned from a covert mission inside Konoha. The 9-man team was disguised as Root Anbu, and had performed their duty with no fuss from the real Root Anbu that were patrolling the streets alongside the Hyuga ninja. The commanding officer of this special assignment, ordered by the emperor himself, was Meiki Asahina. This was her last assignment before she would head for Spring Country, where the empire has just recently opened up an imperial consulate in the Spring capital. Clad in her ninja uniform with the crimson vest, Meiki watched the unsuspecting village with a pair of binoculars, just as the 9 ninja appeared in a poof of smoke. Mission accomplished, Captain Asahina, the senior ninja, a man by the name of Sho reported. He then produced a small remote detonator and handed it to her. Meiki accepted the detonator and flipped the safety off. I always wanted to go out with a bang, she mused as she pressed the button. At the same time, back in Konoha. What about the Empire's allies in Suna, Wave and Spring? Kaharu asked. We will move against Wave first, Danzo replied. We'll use several squads of ninja, cross the bridge and annex the island. The people have no ninja village, and after we make an example out of several of them, they will not resist. I will transform Wave into a forward operations base and seize the Imperial Consulate located there. Then I will move against Spring. Anyone who is an ally to that damned emperor and his whore of a wife is an enemy of the Leaf. But in the meantime, we must tread carefully and rebuild Konoha's forces, Hiashi pointed out. I agree, Danzo replied. In the meantime, we will denounce the Kyuubi brat and his whore as traitors to the Leaf. K.A. boom, K.A. boom, K.A. boom, K.A. boom, K.A. boom. K.A. boom, K.A. boom, K.A. boom, K.A. boom. Outside of Konoha, Meiki and the Imperial Ninja watched with satisfied grins as the Hokage movement, containing the faces of Hashirama Senju, Tobirama Senju, Hiruzen Sarutobi, Minato Namikaze and Tsunade Senju, detonated from the demolition charges, basically several satchels full of exploding tags wired to remote blasting caps from their hiding places inside the mountain, destroying the massive faces and sending chunks of rocky debris to the village below. The falling debris had caused massive damage to the Hokage Tower, the building soon collapsing onto itself. Aside from the monument, The demotion team had also planted charges inside the former clan homes of the Nara, Yamanaka, Aburame, Inuzuka, Sarutobi, and the Namikaze estate also went up in a series of explosions. Not even the Uchiha district was spared, as the entire district was also destroyed. All in all, 0 body count, maximum property damage. As chaos ensued inside Konoha, Maki and the others headed south for Wave. As Danzo and the War Council rushed outside, they were greeted with an unnerving sight. The faces of the first 5 Hokages that were carved into the mountain had fallen from the mountainside, demolishing the forests beneath the massive mountain, as well as the Hokage Tower, which was crushed under the debris. Danzo was furious. He knew that Naruto was the one responsible. Almost immediately, Danzo had ordered the invasion of Wave to take place once the fires were put out. However, by the time Danzo had ordered the invasion of Wave Country, they had found that the Great Naruto Bridge was also demolished, effectively blocking access to Wave. Disappointed, the Root Anbu and Hyuga ninja returned back to Konoha. Kimen City, the imperial capital. It was mid-morning when the 5 ships arrived at the imperial capital. Tsunade and Jiraiya made out the former Raikage of Kumo, along with the Nibi Jinchuriki and the Demon of the Mist standing at the entrance of the town. Along with them were Konan and Yahiko. Once the boats were secured, the refugees from Konoha began to disembark. Tsunade and Jiraiya told the others to remain behind as she approached the 4 ninja. Lady Tsunade, Lord Jiraiya, welcome to Kimen City, greeted. The Emperor and Empress sent the 4 of you to greet us. Tsunade asked. Yeah, Yahiko replied. Consider us your personal welcome wagon. The chief has told us to inform you, Jiraiya, the clan heads and chosen successors, to meet with both him and Lady Hinata at the Imperial Palace for a quick meeting. Everyone else will head for North Kimen and settle in. Me and A will take you to see the chief. Konan and Yugito will lead the others to North Kimen. Preparations have already been made for the clans, continued. All clan compounds are identified by their clan insignias. The Chunin and Junin will be set up in 3 dorms until they can find their own place. Tsunade nodded. She turned around and faced the refugees and relayed the order. Soon, Asuma Sarutobi stepped forward, followed by the clan head and their successors of the Akamaki, Aburame, Inuzuka, Hyuga. In this case, the cadet branch had voted Neji as clan head, with Tenten tagging along Nara and Yamanaka. Follow me, said as he and Yahiko led the clan heads, their successors and the 2 sages to the Imperial Palace, while Yugito and Konan took the remaining refugees to North Kimen. Imperial Complex, House of Sovereigns. The main feeling that the Konoha clan heads were feeling was mostly apprehension. Here they were, strangers in a strange land, summoned for a quick meeting with the Emperor, the son of Minato Namikaze, as well as his wife. The same person who was once known as the knuckle-headed ninja of Konoha with a penchant of making the impossible possible was the most powerful man in the West. Of course they had a right to be scared. Fortunately, Shikamaru had set things in perspective, that Naruto was not looking for vengeance on Konoha, despite the fact that they deserved it. If Konoha decide to bring war onto his doorstep, which is a possibility, since Danzo was now in charge, then Naruto would have no problem in destroying the leaf once and for all. I had given the clan heads a quick history about Naruto and the Western Empire. It was true that Naruto had rescued both him and B from being killed, as well as rescuing the other Jinchuriki, who had made their home throughout the empire. It was also true that the Nine Tails was a vixen and the chief prime minister of the empire. And it was also true that it was Naruto who had eliminated Orochimaru and destroyed the alliance between Odo, Kumo and Iwa. And Yahiko led the Konoha ninja inside the House of Sovereigns, stopping only when they reached the doors to the throne room. The Emperor and Empress Consort are inside. Try not to piss them off. They're not as forgiving. Inside the throne room, Naruto and Hinata Namikaze sat on their thrones, Naruto dressed in his white shirt, black vest, pants and boots, while Hinata was in her ninja uniform, hair tied behind her in a ponytail. Katami stood beside Naruto's throne, dressed in one of her elegant kimonos. The doors to the throne room opened, and Tsunade entered the throne room, followed by Jiraiya and the clan heads and chosen successors. It was already known that Naruto and Hinata were the most powerful couple in the West, but to the clan heads and their children, it was unnerving, to say the least. 8 years was a long time, and in those 8 years, Naruto had matured. He was still unpredictable at times, but proved to be a capable and effective ruler. Hinata looked regal, despite being dressed in her ninja uniform. If she was surprised to see Neji and Tenten representing the Hyuga clan, she did not show it. Tsunade went down on one knee, followed by Jiraiya. Soon, the other clan heads and their successors followed suit. Rise, Katami ordered. Once they did, Naruto began to speak. Let's get one thing straight. I already know why you did what you did, as it was Shikamaru who had told me in the aftermath of the Suna Akatsuki War. But that doesn't mean that you're off the hook. As you can already tell, my mistrust of the leaf runs deep. If you are looking for redemption, it's not given here. It is earned. You, as well as all of the ninja who had came here from Konohagakure are on probation for 1 year. Prove your worth to the unified West, to my wife and to me, and I will grant you clan status and citizenship. He turned to Neji. Neji Hyuga, for you, I will sweeten the deal. The same rules still apply, but if you and the cadet branch show your loyalty to the unified West, I will make you clan head, and I will also remove the caged bird seal from your head. Then he turned back to the others. If you have any problems or questions, our door is open. But I will say this once, so pay attention. If you try and screw me or Hinata over, if I hear one whiff of treachery from any one of you, you will be a head shorter. Are we clear? The assembled ninja nodded. Glad we understand one another. The rules in this town are just about the same as they were in Konoha. Don't steal anything, treat the people with respect and everything will be fine. Jiraiya, Tsunade, remain behind. We have much to discuss. The rest of you are dismissed. Settle in and get your bearings around town. I will have your assignments for you in a couple of days. The clan heads bowed and walked out of the room. All except Asuma. Something on your mind, Sarutobi? Naruto asked as he leaned back in his throne. My nephew, is he well? Asuma asked, knowing full well that Maru respected and admired Naruto a great deal. The emperor nodded. He is. He's with the garrison at the Suna consulate. Because of his actions in the war against the Akatsuki, Gaara promoted him and his 2 friends to Junin. Can you talk to him? I've missed so much out of his life, Asuma asked to the point that it sounded like he was pleading. Naruto slowly nodded. I'll see what I can do. Asuma nodded his thanks and made his exit. Was that her? Sum asked as the clan heads and their children left the House of Sovereigns. I smelled foxes surrounding her. Kiba nodded. Yeah, that's the 9 tails, all right. Quite amazing to see how the emperor has the most powerful of the Biju under his command, Shibi noted. Even more amazing that he did not have us execute for screwing him over, Shikaku added. If it wasn't for the hair color, he'd look exactly like his dad. Shuza nodded. You think we made the right choice in coming here? Inochi nodded. Most definitely. It will be hard at first, but in the end, things will work out for the best. I would rather take my chances with a banished ninja turned emperor rather than that crazy warhawk and his kissing henchman. In the meantime, we should get settled in, Sum said. Inside the imperial palace, the emperor of the unified West and his wife were seated with the 2 surviving sages and were talking over dinner. How was the way in? Hinata asked. Very scenic, Tsunade replied. Is it true? About Orochimaru? I took his head myself, Naruto replied. And I took his sword as a trophy. Kabuto is also gone. Zabuza took his head as well. Susanoo's wrath was a huge success. I did what I said I would do. That you did, Jiraiya said. So what now? Danzo is now a credible threat. Once the Fire Lord croaks, he will be hell-bent on destroying you and your allies. I know, Naruto replied. He tried to kill one of my merchants, I believe you know her. I had her reassigned to the Imperial garrison down in Wave Country. That was Danzu's intended target, because of my support base there. So after talking it over with Tazuma and the Wave Council, they agreed to letting my troops destroy the bridge, thus hindering Danzu's attempts to invade. Just a week earlier, we received a formal notice from the Rokudaime elect and what remained of the Konoha Council, Hinata continued. Saying that the Pakara Merchant House is ordered by the Rokudaime and Civilian Council to pay reparations to the Konoha Mercantile Guild, as well as a notice from the Hyuga main branch declaring our marriage to be null and void, and that I must return to Konoha immediately. The arrogance of the council and their crazy Hokage, Naruto snorted. It did get a good laugh from the council when we showed it to them. So I relayed an order to Captain Asahina and told her to send Konoha a message, hence the destruction of the Hokage monument and the former clans' homes. Asahina blowing up the Uchiha district was a bonus. The message is clear. I can destroy Konoha whenever and however I want, but I will let them live with the disgrace that they had brought upon themselves. And what if Konoha do try and attack the unified West? Jiraiya asked. I'll tell you the same thing I told the council, Naruto replied. I'll simply turn Kumo and I will loose on them, blame Konoha for Susanoo's wrath. Let Danzo deal with stone and lightning. Fair enough, Tsunade said. What do you have planned for the clans? I don't know just yet. Hinata and I still have to go through the files you gave us. But off the top of my head, Zabuza needs some help with the interrogation and torture division of the Imperial Defense Forces, so Inochi, Ibiki and Enko would be at home there. We also got a ninja academy in East Kimen, so some of the ninja can teach, others can patrol the city and the countryside. There's plenty to do here in the West. Konoha is the least of my worries at the moment. And if blaming Konoha on the attacks on Kumo and I don't work? Jiraiya asked. Then I'll let Katami finish what she started. Only this time, she will be a willing participant in the matter, Naruto replied. In the back of their minds, the two remaining sages almost felt bad for their former village. Keyword being almost. Diary of the Emperor, Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. Entry 1. It's been 2 weeks since the destruction of the Sound and of Orochimaru's death by my hands. 2 weeks since I allowed the Konoha clan's asylum to cripple Konoha's power. I told the clans that I would not make it easy for them, and so far, I have kept my word. But they are resilient, and do not back down from a challenge. I should start off with Tsunade and Jiraiya. At Hinata's request, I assigned Tsunade to the hospital along with Shizune and Ino. I also notified Tsunade about Kokura Yamada, and of her connection to the Senju. Tsunade was surprised to find out that she had family still living, and they survived the generations of war. The slug sage and the clan head hit it off pretty well, and I discovered another thing about Kokura, she likes her sake as well. Jiraiya could have retired and I would have to deal with him peeping in the women's hot springs. But he was needed back east, as his spy network was still situated in Spring Country. So now, he is working with the intelligence network out of the Pakara merchant house in Spring, still independent. Aside from the Fire Lord, he also sends me intel regarding movements regarding Iwa, Kumo and Konoha. Inoichi Yamanaka is at home with the IDF's interrogation and torture division. When he resigned, he brought Ibiki Morino, Enko Mitarashi and all of Konoha's interrogation division with him. Zabuza found a friendly rival in Ibiki. They both can be seen at the bar trading war stories and slamming back tall glasses of beer at the end of the day. Ino, on the other hand, enjoys working at the hospital. One day, as Hinata and I made our rounds through the capital, we both spied Haku and Ino having lunch together at the local barbecue shack. Just recently, Inoichi has reopened his flower shop with his wife and Ino. Kimen City was lacking in that department, and almost immediately, the Yamanaka flower shop turned out to be a huge success with the people. Shikaku Nara is now the vice commander of the Junin forces in the IDF, his authority second to Rose Shinto's father, Commander Jiro Shinto. Those two are opposites, but Jiro can see that the lazy Nara is a gifted tactician. The area in which the Nara clan had settled in is known for its deer. Something that Shikaku easily fell back on, given how he herds deer in his spare time. The Nara were also known to be expert herbalists, of which the Akamichi obtained their special pills and the Inuzuka military pills from. Old habits die hard in this case. Shikaku's knowledge in herbal medicines can prove to be invaluable to the imperial forces in the long run, which is why I allowed him to resume his research into his herbal medicine. The southern region's island chain has several herbs I know that will interest him very well, which is why I allowed him to have several Pakara merchants to deliver the herbs to him. As for his son, maybe I have a sadistic side to me. I think Katami and Zabuza has definitely rubbed off on me. I assigned Shikamaru to act as my proxy in the Suna consulate, which means he has to deal with Tamari. Which leads me to the Akamichi. Shuza works alongside Shikaku in the IDF. Han had picked a fight with him while he was passing through the imperial capital on his way to the southern region to visit Roshi. The fight took place at training ground number 28, where the already established clans and the Konoha refugees watched the ensuing fight. Suffice to say, the training ground was leveled, and the match ended in a draw. But Shuza had earned the respect of the former Iwa ninja, and even though Han would not admit it, he was impressed with the Akamichi's skills. His son works at the Ninja Academy alongside Tenten, Rock Lee and Maeda Guy, Shoji teaching basic taijutsu, a skill he excelled in back in Konoha. Moving down the line, Asuma and Kurenai Sarutobi. Given Asuma's background as a bodyguard for the Fire Lord, he was the 9th member of the elite guards. Almost immediately, he picked up a rival in Rose Shinto. Oh, and concerning him and Maru, I did keep my word and talked to Maru about his uncle being here. Maru was still upset over the fact that Asuma was here, but deep down, he was still hurting. So I came up with a plan. What can I say, I'm still unpredictable. I had Asuma and Maru face off in a match. If Asuma won, then both he and Maru will sit down and talk. If Maru won, then Asuma would no longer bother him. Maru won, and when it looked like the bonds that held the Sarutobi clan would forever be severed, Maru relented. Uncle and nephew sat down and talked inside the reception room. I am glad to say that Maru has reconciled with his uncle. Little Hitomi likes her big cousin as well. Kurenai had been teaching at the Konoha Academy in intermediate and advanced genjutsu. When her successor at the Kimen Imperial Academy had retired days before the Konoha refugees' arrival, she had overheard about his vacant position and had put in for it. Hinata talks to her on occasion as she teaches a course twice a week on weapons combat. I also teach at the academy, only I teach philosophy. Next on the list, the Hyuga clan. Who'd have thought that Neji and Tenten had hooked up? I suspect that one of the reasons why Neji decided to come here was to avoid his child being branded with the caged bird seal. That and the cadet branch clan would be allowed to flourish in the unified West without the hindrance of the main branch. As I've mentioned earlier, because of his leadership skills, the cadet branch, no, that's not right, make that the western branch of the Hyuga appointed Neji as clan head. The former cadet branch numbered 80 in total, with half of that number Chunin and Junin level ninja. For them, I assigned them to the military police division, which patrolled the streets of Kimin City and the port. Neji, on the other hand, opted to work at the Imperial Academy alongside Rock Lee and Maeda Guy as taijutsu teachers, while Tenten was a weapons instructor. In her part-time, she also operated a weapons shop, catering to both samurai and ninja alike. The Inuzuka were still high on my shit list, but that still didn't mean that they could make themselves useful. For Sum and that boneheaded son of hers, they both were assigned to the IDF's tracker division. Hannah worked as an assistant veterinarian. Let Kiba and Sum chase down bandits and highwaymen for the next year. See how they like it. Next, are the Aburame. I forgot to mention that there is a clan similar to the Aburame, as they also deal with bugs. Only difference was that instead of Kikachu bugs, the Yokoyama clan used Laja giant hornets. Reminds me of Iwa's Kamizuru clan, who also uses attack bees. Only difference was the Laja giant hornet is as big as your thumb and rather drain your chakra, it poisons you to death. Pretty useful for the Rakan division, which is where Shibi and Shino ended up. Of course, once in a while, I had to use the famed Inoshika Cho trio, both generations, to put down the occasional brigand or for an escort mission to the southern region. At least they get to travel, so they really can't complain. As for my former teammates, the idiot Hitaki and the last Uchiha, I originally planned on assigning them to Zabuza's Demon Brigade, but decided against it. Tsunade had told me that Sasuke was training to become a member of the Anbu before the Exodus, so I assigned the both of them to the IDF's 2nd Division under General Kibagami. I still get bad memories whenever I see those two, so I avoid them as much as possible. But Hinata was right about one thing. Sooner or later, I will have to deal with the Uchiha, one way or another. Maybe I'll deal with him once the Imperial tournaments are over. Entry 2. The Imperial tournaments in South Ichiyama always draw a big crowd from both the East and the West. Ninja, samurai and fighters from the Empire and the East all come for a week-long tournament to see who is the best of the best. Aside from the major tournament here, we also hold regional tournaments in both regions, to keep the fighters' skills sharp. Just in case war rears its ugly head once again. Plus, the masses always love a good fight. But something unexpected happened. Sasuke had signed on to compete in the tournament. I had fought the Uchiha twice, at the Valley of the End, and in Suna once the Chunin exams were completed. Now, he is taking on the finest the unified West has to offer. And if by some stroke of luck he makes it to the finals, then he has to fight A, who is the current champion. Aside from Hinata and myself, Tsunade and Jiraiya were also present, as were Daimyo Fujika's, the major clan heads form the North and South regions, and the Konoha heads. Aside from Sasuke, Neji and Rock Lee also signed up for the tournament. Those three have their work cut out for them. Entry 3. During the tournament, an envoy from Iwa arrived seeking an audience with me and Hinata. The envoy was led by the recent, elected Tsuchikage herself, Onoki's granddaughter Kuretsuchi. Looks like Danzo let it slip that I was the Emperor of the West, and that my father was Minato Namikaze, hoping that Iwa would take me out of the picture. Our meeting was an interesting one, to say the least. Flashback. South Ichiyama, Southern Region. The largest city in the Southern Region, South Ichiyama was home to the week-long Imperial Tournament, of which the Emperor and Empress Consort were present, taking in the tournament fights with great interest. However, Naruto and Hinata were not at the stadium, since the tournaments were over for the night. The Emperor and Empress Consort was called into an emergency sit-down with an envoy from Iwa, led by the Godime Tsuchikage herself, Kuretsuchi. Naruto was no fool, which is why he had Tsunade and the elite guards here, just in case things degenerated. The Emperor and Empress Consort were in the reception room of the Ichiyama Hotel, seated in chairs. Kuretsuchi herself was also seated, her squad of Junin-level ninja flanking her as well. Naruto was in his usual black attire, the longcoat casually slung over his chair, while his wife looked stunning in her Chisogam dress. The Godime Tsuchikage was in her robes of state, while her ninja were in their standard Junin attire. So is it true? Kuretsuchi asked. Are you the son of Minato Namikaze? I am, Naruto calmly replied. The Iwa ninja whispered among each other, while Kuretsuchi remained calm. So why is the son of our most hated enemy the Emperor of the Unified West? I was banished from Konoha 8 years ago, so I have no love for Konoha, Naruto replied. Especially for their current Hokage. Tsunade and a number of Konoha ninja are here because she asked for asylum, rather than serve under an oppressive and corrupt government. That, I have to agree with you, Kuretsuchi said. In fact, it was an envoy from Konoha who had notified us about you. Knowing Danzo, he hoped that Iwa would try and go to war with the unified West, Naruto pointed out. Danzo hates me because he wanted me as Konoha's weapon, but he despises Iwa and Kumo more, as he wishes to rule not only Konoha, but he could be an even bigger threat to the east than I could be. The Godime cocked an eyebrow. Oh, Naruto leaned back in his seat. I have no intentions of invading the west, as I have told your grandfather when he came to Suna following the Akatsuki invasion. I am very content with my life here. Kuretsuchi studied the younger man for a long moment. You may be the son of the Yellow Flash, but I mistrust Danzo even more. The war with Kumo and Oto has pretty much left the stone with less than half of its forces. Kumo is even worse off than we are. If you agree to leave Iwa in peace, I promise you as Godime Tsuchikage not to interfere with your Pakera merchants, nor your allies in the east. Naruto and Hinata exchanged whispers for a moment before Naruto turned back to Kuretsuchi. As long as you don't interfere with Suna, Wave or Spring, we will not attack Iwa. Konoha is fair game, but not the fire capital itself or the daimyo, as he was the one who kept me out of the bingo book. Honor my requests, and I will not attack. My grandfather was right about you, Kuretsuchi said. You are indeed a wise and sensible ruler. I will honor your requests in exchange for Iwa's safety. Naruto nodded. Go in peace, Lady Tsuchikage. End flashback. I sent an imperial envoy to Iwa with the non-aggression pact, of which Kuretsuchi had signed. Iwa is out of the equation. Kumo is not that big of a threat, so I decided to leave them alone. But, if they attack Spring, then all bets are off. Entry 4. Sasuke Uchiha has blown through the competition. Only Takuma Chiba had given him a serious challenge. He has improved greatly since our last encounter. Who knows, if he defeats A, he might challenge me next. But as he fought his way through the tournament, I can see the determination in his eyes. I should know, since I had the same look in my own eyes when I united the West. Just as I was the hope for the people of the West, he holds the hope of the Konoha refugees on his shoulders. Maybe the will of fire is still alive in the Uchiha after all. Entry 5. The tournament is over. Sasuke Uchiha is the new champion. I had given it his all, but Sasuke had pulled through. The strange thing about it is that he had only one request, of which was relayed to me by the proctor. Sasuke wanted an audience with the emperor, in other words, me. My first response to his request was no, but then that would make me a hypocrite, seeing as how I managed to get Maru and Asuma talking again. But it was Granny Tsunade that had talked me into making my peace with Sasuke. She told me that he was disgusted with how the civilian council had treated me just for doing my job. Kinda ironic how the one person I despise the most saw me not as the Nine Tails, but as a loyal ninja to the leaf. I hope I will not regret this, as I agreed to the meeting. I will arrange to meet with my former teammate at the Imperial Complex's private gardens once we return to Kimen. I still mistrust him after all this time, but I have put Konoha behind me. I am not the demon brat that they made me. Here, I am respected and loved by all. I really hope that I am not going to regret this. Imperial Complex, Palace Gardens. 2 days had passed since Sasuke had made the request following his victory at the Imperial Tournament. Since then, he had slowly gained the respect of not only his fellow refugees, as well as the admiration of the people of Kimen. It had also gained the attention of a young kunoichi who worked alongside the last Uchiha, a fire user like himself, and also the last of her clan. The attraction was mutual to Sasuke. Then Asuma dropped by his dorm that morning to deliver a message. He was to escort Sasuke to the Imperial Complex for his meeting with the Emperor. His CO was already notified, and Sasuke was in the clear. The younger Junin was then taken to the Imperial Complex, and told to wait for the Emperor in the Palace Gardens. Located at the back of the complex, Naruto had it done for Hinata as a wedding gift. Think Shang Tsung's Palace Gardens, without the outworld-related stuff in it and the statues, seeing as how his wife loved flowers. Even Sasuke was impressed with the beauty of the gardens. Not even Konoha had something like this. The samurai believe that a perfect blossom is a rare thing. Sasuke turned around at the sound of the voice. Leaning up against the tree, dressed in his standard black attire, sans the longcoat, was his former teammate. Arms folded across his chest, Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze remained at his spot, looking at the sakura trees that Sasuke was admiring earlier. For them, they could spend their entire lives looking for the perfect blossom, and for them, it would not be a wasted life. He straightened himself up and walked towards his teammate. I had this place created for Hinata when we were married. She loves it here. Sasuke nodded, noticing for the first time that Naruto was taller than he was, if only slightly. It's very beautiful. For the record, I still don't trust you, Naruto continued. I almost refused this meeting outright. But after I managed to get Maru and Asuma back talking again, that would make me a hypocrite. So, here I am. What do you want, Uchiha? I came to ask for your forgiveness, Sasuke replied. For what had happened at the Valley of the End, and for causing your banishment. You didn't cause my banishment. Danzo, those two old geezers who were Sarutobi's teammates, the Banshee's mother and Hiashi were responsible for that. The only thing I was guilty of was just doing my job. But answer me this, why? Why run to Orochimaru, and risk being labeled as a missing ninja, when you had everything back in Konoha? You were the little prince, and what was I? The demon brat, the dead last. Sasuke took the Emperor's verbal barrage pretty well. I guess I really have no excuse for what I did. I wanted the power needed to kill my brother, and Orochimaru was the best idea at the time. I didn't know that my actions would end up destroying Cell 7. It was after you were banished, while I was holed up in the hospital, that I realized something. You may have been the Dobi of the Rookie 11, but you never did quit. Tsunade told me about you being the Jinchuriki to the Nine Tails, and even a blind man could see that you were not the fox incarnate. Otherwise, you would have pulled Agara and long since burned Konoha to the ground. Glad to see you're not as stupid as the Scarecrow and the Banshee, Naruto thought. He then asked, why did you come here? Redemption, mostly, the Uchiha replied. When Konoha was originally founded, Madara had nothing to his name. Now, history repeats itself. Only this time, I will not make the same mistakes Madara, Itachi, nor my father had made. You killed Itachi, something that I could never do. You pretty much have a habit of making the impossible possible. But the most important reason why I came here was to counter Madara's prophecy, the Curse of Hatred. Curse of Hatred, Naruto repeated. The Six-Paths Sage adopted two boys. The eldest would be known as the clan ancestor of the Uchiha, the younger the clan ancestor of the Senju. Even though the boys were not related by blood, the Six-Paths Sage trained them both in the shinobi arts. When the Six-Paths Sage was dying, he made the younger brother, the Senju, his chosen heir, because he held the ideas of which Hashirama Senju would base his ideas regarding the will of fire. The Uchiha clan head did not take that very well, I suspect. Yeah, the Uchiha felt cheated out of his birthright, and waged war against the Senju. Thus began a cycle of hatred that transcended history, culminating in the mutual hostility between the Uchiha and Senju. Madara and Fugaku believed that the Uchiha would end up fighting the Senju to the death. You, being a descendant of the Senju through your mother's side, and me being the last Uchiha, Madara believed that it was fate that we would end up fighting to the death. So you knew about Madara? Sasuke nodded. He came to me, shortly before the Suna Akatsuki War, and led me to the underground chambers inside the main house of the Uchiha. There, he explained it all to me, that I was destined to fight you until one of us died. Before that, I found the papers regarding my father's plans for the attempted coup. Madara had used Itachi to slaughter the clan. Itachi was good, but he was no match for the eternal Magankyu Sharingan. What do you think? Naruto asked. I think you said it best before you fought Neji in T-Country. There is no such thing as fate. There is only choice. It was my choice to reject the Curse of Hatred, because it had all but brought the Uchiha to ruin. It was my choice to leave Konoha rather than to serve under Danzo. And it was my choice to come here asking for your forgiveness. You offered my friendship, and I ended up shoving a Chidori into your chest as a result. Much to Naruto's surprise, Sasuke went down on one knee. Emperor Namikaze, I Sasuke Uchiha, do formally dedicate myself and the Uchiha clan into the service of the unified West. I will not make the same mistakes that my father and Madara had made. If you ask it, I will even give you my life. For 1 full minute, Naruto looked at Sasuke. Then he ordered him to rise. I'm not going to have you killed, Sasuke. I'm not a bloodthirsty butcher. But like I've told the clans when I summoned them here, you must earn your redemption. But coming here and admitting your faults, that did take major courage from your part. I guess we both had some growing up to do. Ironically, Konoha was holding me back from reaching my true potential. So the banishment was a blessing in disguise. You've earned my forgiveness, but what I've said about your redemption will remain. Sasuke bowed. Thank you, your majesty. Naruto waved him off. Don't bother with that. Most people around here call me chief. Goes back to when I was uniting the lands. There's something you should know about Shimura, before I forget. He has the Sharingan. Sasuke's eyes went wide. What, are you sure? The emperor nodded. One implanted in his left eye, which he keeps concealed by his bandages, and a mechanical arm loaded with 10 of them. He must have gotten them after the Uchiha massacre. He was no match for my fox eye, though. But he is still more dangerous than ever. Will you go to war against Konoha? I hope not, but the Rokudaime and his lackeys still has it in for me, despite me being the emperor. He tried to invade Wave, but I managed to convince Tazuma to allow my units to destroy the bridge. Wave is safe for the time being. But sooner or later, the unified West will be forced into a showdown with Konoha. By that time, the Fire Lord would have been finished with the creation of his new village and will strip Konoha of its hidden village status. A fate worse than death for a shinobi village, I'm sure. Sasuke replied, if Konoha's status as a shinobi village is removed, then they will lose all perks and benefits that comes with the rights of being a shinobi village. No military aid, no shinobi. Danzo and Hiashi will flip out if that happens. Before the conversation could continue, one of the Imperial ninja who was assigned to the complex appeared via Shunshin. Lord Namikaze, your wife is waiting for you inside the council chambers. The other council members are starting to arrive. Naruto dismissed the ninja. Naruto dismissed him as well. This meeting is over. Return to your post, Uchiha. Once Sasuke was gone, Naruto addressed the third party that was watching from the shadows. You think he was telling me the truth? Katami appeared from behind the tree she was hiding. He sounded sincere, but only time will tell whether or not he will prove his worth, the Ninetales replied. I'm surprised you didn't end up fighting him. Naruto chuckled as both he and Katami walked up the pathway. Are you kidding? Hinata would be pretty pissed if someone trashed her gardens. Seeing Hinata mad with her Byakugan activated is something no one wants to see. True, Katami said, I do believe she did that on you several times. It had taken them a week, traveling from Spring Country to catch a boat, but the Konoha envoy had finally arrived in the imperial capital. Sakura Haruno and Hanmura Mitokado, both representing the Konoha Council and the Konoha Mercantile Guild and Hanabi Hyuga, along with their escort, 3 Konoha Anbu and 3 Hyuga Ninja, took in the sights of the imperial capital as they made their way to the imperial complex. Danzo and the Konoha Council had made it clear. This was an SS-class mission of the utmost importance. The Konoha envoy was to set their demands down upon the Demon Emperor and his whore. Failure to comply would result in a declaration of war upon the United West and their allies. Unknown to them, someone from Konoha had saw their arrival. As they passed the Suna consulate, Shikamaru had noticed the Konoha envoy and after excusing himself, ran for the imperial complex. Inside the imperial council chambers, Naruto and Hinata was looking over the reports regarding the Medic Ninja Corps program that Tsunade had developed along with Kokoro Yamada. Ino Yamanaka stood before the imperial council, having delivered the reports herself from the hospital. Despite having united the West, Naruto still had to contend with uprisings from highwaymen, bandits, and remnants in both regions looking for their own slice of the pie. Naruto's methods in dealing with men like these were simple. Lay down your arms, join the unified West and enjoy the benefits and perks of serving under him, or face complete destruction. The smart ones chose to join up, while those continued to fight, and were summarily annihilated. The Imperial Medic Ninja program started by Lady Tsunade and Lady Yamada has proven to produce very effective results, Naruto said as he passed the reports down to Hinata and A. With each squad having a Medic Ninja, casualties will be down by more than half. Congratulations. Thank you, Chief, Ino replied. She had heard that Naruto preferred to be called Chief, rather than the more formal, Your Imperial Majesty. She had also seen how he was a hard-working and just emperor. Not to mention that Hinata had made an excellent match for him. But things between her and Haku were taking off as well. Before the meeting could continue, Asuma Sarutobi rushed inside the room, followed by a breathless Shikamaru Nara. Lord Namikaze, Lady Namikaze, Shikamaru panted. Troublesome. What is it? Hinata asked. There's an envoy from Konoha on their way here, Asuma reported. Shikamaru saw them as they passed the Suna consulate. He just told me. 9 in total, Lord Namikaze. Sakura Haruno, Hanmura Mitokado, Hanabi Hyuga, and 6 ninja, 3 from Konoha Anbu and the other 3 from the Hyuga. They should be here in less than 10 minutes. Naruto's eyes narrowed, as did Hinata's. Katami and A were both wondering if Konoha had a death wish. The council members whispered among themselves. Ino gasped, as their past was about to come back to haunt them with a vengeance. Naruto immediately took action. Have the complex guards on standby in case they try anything, he ordered. Asuma, rally the guards and tell them to come here immediately. Naruto and Hinata were not taking any chances. The 9-member team of elite bodyguards were stationed behind the Emperor and Empress Consort, ready to defend their Emperor and Empress from any threats. Katami was also present, having changed out of her kimono and into her ninja uniform. You'd think they'd learn by now. Naruto mused. Hinata turned to her husband. You think Konoha would learn that they are not the strongest village anymore? Oh well, I'll send word to the Fire Lord and tell him to proceed with the plan. But first, we need to deal with our guests. They didn't have to wait for very long, as one of the valets had led the Konoha envoy inside the council chambers. Hanmura, Sakura and Hanabi were shocked once the news that Naruto was the Emperor of the Unified West was released, but seeing him seated with Hinata at his side was indeed something that were not expecting. Even more, they had been led to the council chambers, of which all of the council members had either cross nor angry looks on their faces. The 6 ninja remained at the door while the 3 representatives stepped forward and stopped in front of the table containing the Emperor, the Empress Consort, his chief prime minister and his chief advisor. Naruto glared back at the intruders who dared to arrive uninvited at his doorstep. They glared back at him. "You are guests in my home," Naruto noted. "The least you can do is show the proper respect for your betters. You are no better than us, you." Sakura began before she was silenced by Hanmura. "As I've said," Naruto repeated. "You are guests in my home, and in my empire. You should choose your words very carefully, otherwise you will not return to Konoha alive. You are outnumbered, as my council not only advises me in all things pertaining to the Unified West, but can kill each and every one the Konoha ninja 100 times over." That very much was true. Despite having the elite Konoha Anbu and the best of the Hyuga ninja backing them up, the Konoha ninja were still outnumbered. Hanmura straightened himself up and retrieved a scroll. "Naruto Uzumaki, I bring word from the Rokudaime Hokage, Danzo Shimura." He unrolled the scroll and began to read off from it. "By order of the Rokudaime Hokage and the Council of Konoha, Tsunade Senju and Jiraiya, along with the clans and high-ranking Shunin and Junin are declared traitors to the Leaf and are ordered to return to Konohagakure no Sato to face charges of desertion and dereliction of duty. Second, the Pakara Merchant House is to be liquidated. Its income and properties are now the property of Asuna Haruno and the Konoha Mercantile Guild. Third, by order of the Rokudaime Hokage and Hyuga clan head, Hiyashi Hyuga, your marriage to Hinata Hyuga is declared null and void, and Hinata is to immediately return to Konohagakure no Sato to face the Hyuga clan's justice." At that, Ryuji and Haruka snorted. Hinata on the other hand looked amused. Hanmura continued reading. "Fourth, all monies from the Senju accounts and any and all monies from the Namikaze clan as well as all jutsu taken from the Konoha library, as well as the forbidden scroll are forfeit and to be returned to the Leaf effective immediately. This also include all monies which you have gained as Emperor of the Unified West, including said accounts in Spring and Tea countries. Fifth, under the Konoha Clan Restoration Act, Sasuke Uchiha is to be married to Sakura Haruno upon his return to Konohagakure no Sato in order to preserve the Sharingan. You are to also surrender the names of your shinobi and samurai clans and send them to Konoha in order for the Leaf to regain her standing as the strongest of the shinobi villages." The gathered council members looked at Hanmura as if he had lost his mind. Hanmura finally got to the last part of the scroll. "And last, you, Naruto Uzumaki, the demon of Konoha, are to abdicate your throne and return to Konohagakure no Sato to face a war tribunal for crimes against the Leaf. The Jinchuriki under your control are also under the control of Konohagakure no Sato, and are to be initiated into the Anbu." He looked up, rolled up the scroll. "So ordered by the Rokudaime Hokage of Konoha, Danzo Shimura." Hanmura handed over the scroll to the nearby valet, who in turn handed it over to the Emperor, who looked the scroll over, alongside Hinata and A. "And what is to happen to the clan heads upon returning to Konoha?" Hinata asked. "They will be executed as an example to show that desertion from the Leaf will not be tolerated, and their children will be initiated into the Anbu," Hanmura replied. "Hiyashi will personally execute Neji Hyuga and the branch council. You think you can just waltz into my home uninvited with your paper shield and make such ridiculous demands of myself and of the Unified West?" Naruto asked as he shoved the scroll to the side. "And what makes you think that I, let alone my wife, will bow to your demands? If you do not wish to see your allies in Wave or the Spring Daimyo suffer the wrath of Konoha once we invade, you will make the right decision and submit to the will of the Leaf," Sakura shot back. She then got a real evil smile on her face. "Does this council know about your tenant? That you are the Nine Tails Reborn? I'm willing to bet that they would hand you over when they find out how much of a demon you are." Much to her surprise, Naruto glared back at her without fear. "They already know about me being the Jinchuriki. Our former Jinchuriki. I freed the Nine Tails from the seal a long time ago." He jerked a thumb in Katami's direction. "She's seated beside me." Sakura, Hanabi and Hanmura looked at the stunning redhead, who was rising from her seat, then back at the smug emperor. They thought that Kiba was lying about the Nine Tails being a redhead in human form. The killer intent washed over the Konoha envoy. Even the Hyuga and Anbu were taken aback by the Biju Queen's aura. Then they saw the 9 fox tails emerge from her backside, and they knew what Naruto was said was indeed true. All this time, they had abused the boy all for nothing. The same boy that was the son of the Yondaime. "Be careful who you insult, Sakura Haruno," Katami warned. "You may not like the consequences of your actions." The 6 ninja went for their weapons, but Hanmura ordered them to stay their hands. The fact that Naruto was not the demon fox had definitely complicated things. Danzo must have balls as big as temple bells to think he can boss me around, despite orchestrating my banishment alongside Hiashi, your buddy on the council, and that harpy of a Haruno. At that, Hanmura's eyes went wide. Of course I know, Naruto continued. I found out after the Suna Akatsuki War. I could have had Tsunade kill all of you at that time, or better yet, I could have you executed, then invade Konoha and finish what the Nine Tails have started. It took me getting tossed on my to see that the corruption in Konoha is far too deep. And here you are, in my home, making demands as if I was a genin, the nerve. You have no choice in the matter, Sakura sneered. Are you willing to risk the destruction of your allies? No, because Konoha is weak, Naruto replied. Your threats are as empty as the village's soul. Tell me, did you manage to regain any of the alliances you had because of me? No, I thought as much. These past 8 years have all but weakened Konoha. Hell, even Kumo and Iwa could invade the Leaf and still win. As for your demands, Hinata chimed in, you can take them and shove it. You have no choice in the matter, Hanabi shot back. There's always a choice, A said. You just made the wrong one in thinking you can make demands of the emperor. That emperor is a genin of Konohagakure no Sato, Hanmura shouted, pointing at the emperor. Oh, so now that I am the most powerful man in the west with an army, not to mention giving Konoha one black eye after the other by defeating Konoha's finest, am I a genin? I don't answer to Konoha, its Rokudaime Hokage, or to any of you. The unified west does not recognize the authority of Konohagakure no Sato, not its council or the likes of you. Then you will risk having Konoha invade Wave and Spring, Hanabi pointed out. Oh, you are such a fool, Hanabi, Hinata said. Danzo tried to send an invading force to Wave, but we ended up destroying the bridge. Spring Country's hidden shinobi village is up and running, has been for the past 5 years, and will defend their land and their daimyo from any and all threats. Mist and Suna will decimate your forces while we will sit back and watch. Your forces have been weakened, and would not stand even a siege, so don't you dare make demands of us. Hanmura knew that Hinata was right. He had hoped that Danzu's bluff could force the unified West into capitulation, but he could see that it had failed. Konoha had fallen from grace the past 8 years when Naruto was banished. The exodus of the village's most powerful clans and ninja has left Konoha on the brink. Furthermore, the Konoha refugees are under the protection of the unified West, Naruto continued. The Pakera merchant house will not surrender its resources nor its wars to the Banshee's mother. And I will not hand over the fortunes of the Namikaze clan, my clan. You are no Namikaze, Hanmura grated. You're just an orphan, a nobody. Naruto didn't stop. We can care less what Konoha and Hiashi could think about our marriage. And we will not surrender our clans, nor will I surrender the Jinchuriki for Danzu's intentions. Last, I will not abdicate my throne. He rose from his seat. You think you can dictate orders to me like a genin? I can kill you myself and send your bodies back to the Warhawk as a warning. But I will not do that. You're going to let us go? Hanabi asked. No, you are going to spend time inside the Imperial dungeons, Hinata replied. You will stay there for the night, and afterward, you will return home. I suggest you do what is good for you and allow us to walk out of here, Hanmura replied. Otherwise you will have a bloodbath on your hands. The ninja here are Konoha elite. Do you think you have a chance against us? Naruto looked amused. Then he activated a hidden seal. Hanmura, Sakura and Hanabi, as well as the 6 ninja fell to their knees, as the chakra-draining seals took effect, draining their bodies of energy but not killing them. Once the Konoha ninja were effectively disabled, a squad of Imperial ninja entered the room, stripped the Konoha envoy of their weapons, and hauled them out of the council chambers. Naruto grinned as Sakura shouted death curses at him and Hinata. The seal was a basic one, yet effective. It was something that he had used before during the Unification Wars, and it had saved his life on many an occasion. Hinata looked at her husband, her expression mirroring that of her husband. You truly are unpredictable, love, Hinata said. And you love me for it, was the Emperor's reply. He retrieved the Konoha scroll. This can be useful to our advantage. How? Easy. The clans from Konoha and the ninja will need to know about this. Naruto turned to Asuma. I want all clans and ninja assembled in the North Kimin Public Assembly in 1 hour. Make it so, Sarutobi. Asuma bowed. Yes, Chief. What are you going to do? Sanshi asked after Asuma had left. Cement the loyalty of the refugees to my cause, Naruto replied as he retrieved his longcoat and slipped it over his shoulders. This meeting is adjourned. Katami, Hinata, you're with me. North Kimin Public Assembly, 1 hour later. Before Kimin had expanded into a city, the assembly once served as its town square. Then Rokubangi Oda had moved in and expanded Kimin city tenfold. Now, The public assembly was filled with the Konoha refugees, with the clan heads taking the front. Sasuke Uchiha stood beside Neji Hyuga and Su Minazuka, curious as to why the emperor has called for a meeting of the Konoha refugees. Standing in the clearing, longcoat fluttering in the gentle wind, Naruto scanned the gathered audience. The clan heads and their families were present, as were the Chunin and Junin, some of which were on the rooftops, looking down at him. Even Tsunade and Jiraiya stood among the clans, wondering what Naruto had up his sleeve. Hinata was at his side, while Katami and A remained behind. Less than 2 hours ago, an envoy from Konohagakure no Sato arrived on my doorstep, Naruto began, his voice radiating power. He brandished the scroll. They came to the imperial capital, and entered our home uninvited to order me and my wife around, making demands that I cannot and will not meet. He tossed the scroll to Jiraiya, who unrolled it and began to read it alongside Tsunade. The Rokudaime Hokage has declared all of you traitors to the Leaf, and has ordered your return to the Leaf, where the clan heads will face execution, and their children will be forcibly initiated into his root Anbu. A chorus of, "No," erupted from the ninja. He and Hiashi Hyuga have declared my marriage to Hinata invalid and have ordered her to return to Konoha, where she will most likely face death. They have also declared that Sasuke Uchiha is to be married to Sakura Haruno in order to preserve the Sharingan. At that, Sasuke blanched. They also demanded the liquidation of the Pakara merchant house in order to line the pockets of the Konoha Mercantile Guild. Naruto continued, his voice unwavering, as well as any and all monies from your clans, the Senju clan and the Namikaze clans forfeit. Danzo also demands that I send the clans of the Unified West, as well as the Jinchuriki under my banner to Konoha for the purpose of regaining the strength that it had lost through their own actions. And last, they demand that I give up my throne, and return to Konoha to face war crimes. By that time, the scroll had passed on to the elder Ino Shikacho trio. The scroll contained the Hokage insignia, as well as Danzu's signature. It had all but verified Naruto's claims. Even now, Konoha curses my existence. Danzo wanted me as a mindless weapon when I was growing up, and following the Uchiha retrieval mission, had me banished when he saw that I could not be controlled. Even now, after the Suna Akatsuki War, he has seen me as a credible threat. I have no intention of going to war, but I will defend not only my interests back in the East, but my allies as well. He believes that a ninja should kill their emotions. I believe otherwise. It's what makes us human. Oh, he knows how to work it, Jiraiya whispered to Tsunade, noticing that the young emperor's charismatic side was starting to emerge. I have no intentions of invading Konoha, or anywhere else in the East, Naruto continued. I am very content with what I have in the West. But if Danzo continues down this path, he will be dealt with extreme prejudice. You still have your concerns with coming here, and that is understandable. But I have to know, where does your loyalties lie? Jiraiya noticed that Naruto did not say, himself or Konoha. That was a smart move. Then he saw Shikaku step forward to face the emperor. You could have destroyed Konoha at any given moment, the Nara clan head said. You could have wiped all of us out of spite. But you didn't. You and your old man are a rare breed. You don't let the past dictate your actions in the present. After seeing that scroll and what Danzo tried to do to our kids, I'll take my chances here. Same here, Inoichi said. Me too, Shuza added. You showed me twice that no one is bound to fate, Neji said. You truly can make the impossible possible, regardless of your lot in life. There is nothing left for us back in Konoha. My allegiance is with the Unified West. You have the Inuzuka at your command, Sun said. Nara was right. Despite our earlier threats to kill you, you did not hold it against us. Konoha has indeed lost the will of fire. But it lives here. My father loved Konoha, Asuma continued, but he would be appalled as to what it had become. The Sarutobi clan is at the service of the Unified West. Shibi and Shino exchanged glances. Then the elder Aburame spoke. The Aburame clan is at the Unified West's disposal. Someone in the back then chanted Naruto's name. Seconds later, the clans and everyone else were chanting his name, in a show of support for the United West. Jiraiya watched all of this with a broad smile on his face. Oh, the kid definitely knows how to work the crowd, he thought. He made a mental note to talk to him later about taking over as the next Toad Sage. The following day, Naruto stood out in the courtyard, Hinata by his side as the Imperial Guards escorted the Konoha envoy from the dungeons. Hanmura, Sakura and Hanabi looked worse for the wear, while their escort looked worse for the wear. Naruto had made it where, given their location of their cells, they could hear Ibiki and Zabuza's interrogation sessions, as the pair was pulling an all-nighter, dealing with some highwaymen. Psychological warfare at its finest. You will be sent back to Fire Country to give your report to the Rokudaime, Naruto decreed. And give him a message for me. Any acts of aggression will result in my becoming very angry. I orchestrated the destruction of the Akatsuki, and I can do the same to Konoha. At that, the elder and the two women gulped. Seeing that his threat had the proper effect, Naruto turned around and activated the fox eye. His eyes going from cerulean to gold, he began to perform hand seals, picking up speed, before clapping his hands, shouting, Imperial style, Demon's Gate Jutsu. Hanmura, Sakura, Hanabi and the 6 ninja watched in awe as a massive steel gate, half the size of the main gates in Konoha, but still impressive, rose from the ground. Carved into the gates were the images of the tailed beasts from the 1 tail to the 9 tails. A massive lock was released and the doors flung open, releasing ice-cold air. After that, there was nothing but darkness. The Imperial ninja and samurai grabbed the Konoha envoy and despite their pleas, threw them through the gate. The gate then slammed shut and dissipated, its power spent. The Demon's Gate Jutsu was one of the more powerful variants of the Hiroshin. It was a time-space jutsu, designed to move a large amount of people from one place to another in far less time. Naruto had used the Demon's Gate to send them back to the Konoha gates. By the time Hanmura would give his report, the fire daimyo would have come into play, and Konoha would be finished as a ninja village. Konohagakure no Sato, Council Chambers. Things had changed since Danzo had seized control of Konoha. The first thing he had done was to dissolve the council, and reformed it using nothing but loyal shinobi. The second thing he had done was to weed out any and all dissidents to his rule, and had them executed. Loyalty was to the leaf, and to him above all else. Dissension was not tolerated. Second, he made plans to send his Root Anbu scouts to kidnap promising genin from the minor villages and have them brought back to Konoha, where they will be initiated into the Root Anbu. Last, he sent Hanmura Mitokado, Sakura Haruno and Hanabi Hyuga with his list of demands to the United West, with the threat or war on the allies of the United West. From the look of things, the mission was a failure. Seated at the Hokage's chair in his robes of state, Asuna Haruno, Kaharu Udatane and Hiashi Hyuga flanking him, Danzo gave the order to report, to which Hanmura had done in great detail, completing the report with the threat of Naruto invading Konoha should any of his interests and or allies are attacked. Danzo dismissed the trio, but not before ordering the execution of the 6 Hyuga ninja and the Konoha Anbu for failing to protect the envoy. Failure was another thing that was not tolerated in Konoha. You either complete your mission, or die. So the Demon Emperor has refused our demands, Danzo said. Very well, I was hoping that we could reach an agreement without any blood being spilled. But now, the time for talking is over. Agreed, Hiashi replied. I propose that we set up a forward operations base in Whirlpool Country, and build up our forces there. Once our forces are strong enough, we will strike at Spring Country first. Danzo nodded. I agree with you, Hiashi. I will also send out my scouts to the minor villages in order to bring in some fresh recruits to rebuild Konoha's strength. It will take some time, but once Konoha is back on its feet, the shinobi world will soon fear the might of the leaf. After Danzo had said that a Root Anbu appeared via Shunshin, Lord Hokage, there is a courier ninja from the fire capital here to see you. Danzo nodded and seconds later, a courier ninja entered the room. He presented a scroll to Danzo, saying, from the Fire Lord, before disappearing in a puff of smoke. Danzo looked at the seal. It was from the Fire Lord, all right. He broke it and began to read its contents. Hiashi and Asuna were reading over his shoulder, and all three were shocked as to what the scroll's contents contained. In essence, it was Konoha's death certificate. Notice of liquidation. By order of the Lord of Fire Country, the village of Konohagakure no Sato is hereby stripped of hidden village status. All honors and benefits of Konohagakure no Sato are hereby revoked. This notice has been relayed to Kumo, Iwa, Suna and Mist. All military aid is hereby ceased and Konohagakure is ordered to repay the military aid given for the last 6 months to the Fire Lord. All bounties and placements in the Konohagakure bingo book are now invalid. All shinobi clans are stripped of clan status and are ordered to surrender half of their clan's finances to Fire Country. All ninja are stripped of their ranks of genin, chunin and junin and are declared civilians. Accountants from the Fire Capital will arrive by the end of the week in order to audit the village and to seize any assets necessary for the good of Fire Country. So ordered by the Lord of the Land of Fire. Oh God, we're ruined, Kaharu lamented as she grasped her chest. We're finished, she managed to gasp out before keeling over. A medic ninja who had stayed in Konoha rushed over to the frail old woman and checked for a pulse. There was none. Kaharu Udatane was dead from a heart attack, unable to face the fact that Konoha was no longer a shinobi village. She turned to Danzo, Hiashi and Asuna. She's dead, the medic said. Hiashi sank back into his seat. Ever since the founding of Konoha, the Hyuga was one of the main noble clans. Now, the Fire Daimyo had stripped them of that honor and status. He was very, very angry. Word had spread throughout Konohagakure no Sato about the Fire Daimyo's judgment. Overnight, the Leaf Village had gone from being a shinobi village to just a plain village. Chunin and Junin were stripped of their ninja ranks and reduced to civilians. Some even committed suicide or fled the disgraced village, seeing as how Konoha's bingo book was now useless. Upon hearing the news that Konoha was no longer a shinobi village, Hanmura had committed suicide. As expected, the audit team had arrived in Konoha the following day. Faced with spending 20 years in prison, the remaining shinobi clans surrendered half of their wealth. That did not mean that the Konoha Mercantile Guild had came out of this unscathed either. Most of Asuna Haruno's assets were liquidated, and upon discovering that she had a hand in the corruption that festered around the Leaf, she was ordered to surrender 75% of her assets. Asuna was all but furious. The Mercantile Guild's lifeblood was that of being a shinobi village. With that gone, the Konoha Mercantile Guild was finished. Even more insulting was that the Flame Village's Hokage had signed a trade agreement with the Pakara Merchant House. The trade agreement, as she found out, made the Pakara Merchant House the main guild in the village. And the village got much needed products much cheaper than what Asuna had originally sold them for. The Haruno family had ran the guild since the village's founding, and now, with Konoha no longer a ninja village, the Konoha Mercantile Guild, as Asuna knew, was finished. When Danzo personally visited the Fire Daimyo demanding an explanation, the Daimyo gave him the reason why. Konoha had become too corrupt and the Fire Lord had been working on a brand new village to replace Konoha. Toshigakure no Sato, or Fire Village. Danzo then found himself stripped of his title of Hokage, where it was later bestowed upon the new Fire Shadow of Fire Village. Now, Danzo was just a nobody from a village that had all but dug its own grave. The Root Commander was all but furious. He had spent decades in loyal service to the Leaf, only to have it ripped out from underneath him. So what if some people had gotten hurt or were in his way? What he had done was all for Konoha. Upon returning to Konoha, he had sent his entire Root Anbu to his underground headquarters. Then, he made long-term plans. Plans which include the destruction of the upstart ninja village and the assassination of the Fire Lord. Once those two were out the way, he would declare war on the one person who was the bane of his existence. Naruto Uzumaki. All roads led to him. Konoha's downfall had begun with him. Following orchestrating his banishment, he had resurfaced as the most powerful man on the Western continent. As Danzo watched as his world crumbled all around him, he made a solemn vow. That vow was to wipe the Demon Emperor from this plane of existence.